All right, let's get right into it. If you're prepping for that AWS Developer Associate exam, or you're just tired of getting a surprise S3 bill every month, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to break down 3 key pillars of S3: how to store your data the smart way, how to put your cost savings on autopilot, and how to share files securely.
So here's the game plan. We'll kick things off with mastering your data, then dive deep into storage classes. After that, we'll talk about automating your savings, and then tackle secure sharing with something called pre-signed URLs. And we'll wrap it all up with a solid strategy you can use right away.
So let's be honest. Have you ever looked at your AWS bill and just wondered where all those S3 charges are coming from?
It can feel like a total block box. And then there's the other side of the coin. How in the world do you let someone download a single file from a private bucket without just, making everything public? These two problems, cost and security, are exactly what we're going to solve today.
Okay, so the very first step in getting your costs under control is to understand a really simple idea. Not all data is the same. Right when you upload a file, it's probably getting accessed all the time. But a month from now, a year from now, probably not. Choosing the right storage class is all about matching how you access your data with the right price.
You can think of it like organizing your own stuff. S3 Standard, that's your desk drawer. It's for the things you need all the time, right away, in milliseconds. Then you've got S3 Standard IA, or infrequent access. That's kind of like the filing cabinet across the room. Still pretty fast to get to, but it's for stuff you only touch maybe once a month. And then you have the Glacier tiers. That's your off-site, deep storage archive. It is incredibly cheap to store stuff there, but it takes a bit longer to get it back. The bottom line is, you only pay for the speed you actually need.
And wow, this chart really shows you the difference. Just by shifting your data from standard to standard IA, you could slash your storage costs by almost half. Move that same data all the way to Glacier Deep Archive for long-term keeping, and you're talking about a 95% saving. That's not a small change, that is huge. But what if you have no idea how often your data will be accessed? What if it's completely unpredictable? Well, that's exactly what S3 intelligent tiering is for. It's basically the easy button. For a tiny monitoring fee, AWS itself will watch your data and automatically shuffle it between the fast, expensive tier and the slower, cheaper one. You get the savings without any performance impact or retrieval fees. It's an amazing set-it-and-forget-it tool. And that leads us perfectly into the next level of S3 mastery: automation. Come on, nobody wants to be manually dragging files from one storage class to another just to save a few bucks. The whole point is to set up a policy once and let S3 do all the work for you.
So check this out. This is the life story of an object. You can set up a rule that says, okay, for the first 30 days, this object lives in S3 Standard. If nobody's touched it by day 30, boom, it automatically moves to the cheaper Standard IA. After 90 days, it moves again to Glacier Instant Retrieval. And then, after a full year, it gets archived in the absolute cheapest tier, Glacier Deep Archive. It's like a cost-saving waterfall, and it's all completely automated.
Now, this is super important, especially if you're studying for the exam. There are a few rules of the road, some gotchas you have to know. First, you can't just move something to infrequent access right away. It has to live in standard for at least 30 days. Second, don't even bother transitioning tiny files, anything smaller than 128 kilobytes, because the fee to move it might actually cost more than what you save. And finally, remember that lifecycle rules are a one-way street. Data only moves down to colder, cheaper storage, not back up.
So it all boils down to a key decision for you as a developer. If you know how your data is going to be used, like, for example, log files that you know nobody will look at after a month, then use Lifecycle Rules. You'll get the absolute best savings. But if you have no clue, or if the access patterns are all over the place, just use S3 Intelligent Tiering and let AWS figure it out for you.
Okay, we've got our costs optimized. So let's totally switch gears and talk about security. How do we grant someone temporary access to a file in a private bucket without just blowing a giant security hole in our application?
I mean, this is a super common scenario, right? You're building an app, and you need to let your users upload a profile picture. You can't, and I mean, you absolutely cannot, just hard code your AWS access keys into the application for the user to have. So what do you do? The answer, my friends, is a pre-signed URL. Okay, listen up, because if you only remember one thing from this whole section, make it this. A pre-signed URL is a bearer token. What that means is whoever has the URL, whoever bears it, has the power. It's literally like digital cash. If you drop a $20 bill on the street, anyone can pick it up and spend it. Same thing here. And that has some serious security implications.
So how does this magic actually work? Well, it's kind of like a 3-step dance.
First, the user's browser asks your application server, hey, I want to upload a photo. Then your application, which is the only thing that has the AWS keys, generates a special one-time use temporary URL. Finally, it hands that URL back to the user's browser, which then uses it to upload the file directly to S3. Your server is completely out of the loop, and best of all, no secret keys were ever exposed to the client. This makes them absolutely perfect for a few really common situations. The number one use case is, of course, letting your users upload and download stuff from a private bucket. They're also perfect for giving someone temporary access to a file when they don't even have an AWS account. And that last one there, that's the real superpower. You get this incredible fine-grained control for every single request. Now, because these things are so powerful, you have to be careful. The biggest risk is that a URL could get leaked. The mitigation for that, and this is not a suggestion, it's a rule, keep the expiration time on that URL extremely short. We're talking minutes, maybe even seconds, not hours or days. Second, you should always generate these URLs using temporary credentials from an IAM role that has the absolute bare minimum permissions it needs. Always follow the principle of least privilege. One last thing, and this is a huge exam tip. They love to ask about the difference between an S3 pre-signed URL and a CloudFront signed URL. Just think of it this way. An S3 pre-signed URL is for giving one person access to one file. A CloudFront signed URL is for delivering private content to lots of people all over the world through a content delivery network. All right, let's pull all of this together. How do you take these concepts and build a real strategy for mastering your data in S3? Honestly, it comes down to this simple three-part checklist. 1. Store smart. Don't just dump everything in S3 standard, match the storage class to how the data is actually used. 2. Automate your savings. Use lifecycle rules when you know the pattern and intelligent tiering when you don't. And 3. Share securely. Use short-lived, tightly scoped pre-signed URLs for any kind of temporary access. And through all of this, remember one incredible fact. No matter which storage class you pick, whether it's the most expensive or the cheapest, they are all designed for the same 11 nines of durability. That means the safety and integrity of your data is basically a given. AWS handles that. Your job is just to manage its cost and its access throughout its life. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Your data isn't just sitting there. It has a life. It's born, it's hot and active, and eventually it gets cold and archived. The real question is, are you actively managing that life cycle to save money and stay secure? Or are you just paying to let it sit there? Using these ideas will put you in complete control. Thanks for joining me.